The deck I'll be showing today combines tarot, deep mysticism. It's a beautiful self-exploration tool wrapped in an amazing package, and it's probably one of the best releases that I have seen this year. Hey, welcome back. And if you're new to the channel, I'm Jay, and this is Lunar Tarot, where I bring you weekly tarot oracle deck reviews to inspire readings with the help of Dr. Kortnik, who is secretly thinking that he's the boss, and he's right.
Work, work, work!
The Tarot of Secrets, a newly released by Blue Angel, an Australian publisher known for its quality. It's a very heavy package, and what's inside is even better. Let's have a look at this together. The deck comes in a beautiful box. It's a really high quality, and it weighs, I want to say, like half a kilo. And it's got a beautiful embossed prints of some of the cards here. An amazing, huge, massive guidebook. And it has a lot of very deep meaning. So this was created by Tess Whitehurst, and that artwork you'll see is Ananov IS. Let's have a look what's inside. So the wanderer on a horse with a moon and a star above him. And I like how this was packaged. It came with this little leaflet covering the guidebook. You really see how the publisher cares about the work that they do, and it's pretty much in everything that I have seen from them. Unfortunately, they don't make tarot decks often, so this is a rare treat. I don't know how many they released this year. Normally they do a lot of oracle decks, but not tarot. So the box is quite sturdy. It's got a little inlet here for holder for the actual deck, and you got a ribbon. Now this is the guidebook, and I know you are dying in anticipation to see it. We're going to do a test read at the end, and you'll see what the book looks like, but it's very decent book. Let's look at the cards. And by the way, if you want to see the full deck, there's a flip through at the end of this video. They have a waxy coating, and I think this deck is created to be used as a workhorse. It's very matte, and this is what I also like about the deck. Look at the back of the cards. I first thought that maybe there is a flaw in the design, but these little white specks here, it's intentional. So they've got a moon here, and then these are actual stars, which is quite beautiful. The deck has, each card has a border. And the design, well, I'll show you a few cards, and you can figure out for yourself what it reminds you of. Oh, one thing to mention. I've noticed that since I got the cards, and I promise I didn't riffle shuffle them, they now have this arc form because they bent a little. And they haven't been raining or anything recently, so I'm not sure exactly what happened there. And it's not in any shape or form affects the reading experience, right? It's just something peculiar that happened while the deck was unpacked and sitting in the box. This is the design of the cards, and I think it's a combination of a few things. I thought this is a collage-like design, but it isn't actually. It's something a bit more, I won't say painted, but digitally painted, and beautiful the way it is. And the meaning of the secrets, what is actually happens with every card. There are some elements there representing the symbolism of this card. And in this scenario, you've got the Fool, who is standing on an egg representing everything that can happen, but nothing because it hasn't happened yet. There is the transformation from this little moth to a butterfly, and there are a few symbols around here. There's a salt, mercury, and I think it's sulfur, though I'm not familiar with alchemy that much, and this deck actually brings you into a world of alchemy as well, in a very nice way. It's very accessible, I would say, for someone who is not very versed in it. And also look at this little thing here. There's a veil on a fool's eyes, and for transformation, the fool removes the veil. And each card here is filled with that symbolism. The Lover's card is this all-encompassing love. Not what you see in Tarot de Marseille. It's more of this connection, the bond with someone, the moon and the sun, and the symbols here that represent that So the death comes here on a yellow horse, which alchemically represents a symbol of wrath. And in the back, you can see there's a boat here. And that boat means to take you away from a transformation happen after death. Now, one thing you will see in the book that the symbols, some of them aren't explained. And I think this is probably one of the downsides of this deck, that it presumes knowledge of alchemic symbols or planetary zodiac signs as well. So I'm pretty sure this is a rune. And this is something that you can explore further through reading of the book. The Tower here is also a transformational card, and you probably already noticed that this is really a deck of personal transformation and alchemy. Tower here represents the ego death that happens outside of our control, and the liquid coming out here is the energy of the sun and the moon that leads to a transformation from a broken ego into something new, an ascension. Now this is the 10 of Cups. The suits here have been renamed a little bit. So vases are your cups, and you also have pentacles that have been replaced by coins. So this is quite an interesting card because intuitive reading with this deck could be difficult unless you know the symbols. Here you don't see the traditional happy family. It's more of the heart energy and the celebration. Though for me, I wouldn't figure out right away. So you do need to study this deck. Now, in this deck is based on RWS, so there are some correlations and you can recognize familiar figures, but it's not always the case. Like what you're looking here is not actually a 3 of Swords. This is 10 of Swords, and I like to show this card because it often shows you how harsh or soft the deck is. Now, to me, this is a very different take on 10 of Swords. It also represents the same thing, the death of something that's been happening for some time, the hurt that's been taking place, and the end of a cycle. So the person here sitting in grief and the swords piercing the heart, and the idea there that this is coming through the completion, and from there would be a new cycle. And the 7 of Coins, which is 7 of Pentacles here. So if you remember, on 7 of Coins is a person who just collected the harvest. And this represents something similar, though not openly obvious. So this tower here represents a mix of liminal and unlimited energies. And the idea there that through your work, through material work, you sort of transmute it into something that is more of a permanent spiritual nature, which becomes a goal, but in this case, through alchemy, it's a tool of transformation. Now, let me show you the chord cards of the suit of vases, which is our cups, to get an idea what that looks like. So the chord cards start from Princess of Vases, which is a page, and she's an initiate here. You can see she's dipping her hand in a water of emotion, and there's a few elements here. What do you find with this deck? The chord cards are very, very deep, and I'm not going to go through all the meanings because you can explore it if you get this deck, which I hope you would. But here, this leaf, it symbolizes her desire for perfection, but also it blindsides her because she doesn't realize that perfection is not possible. So the knight here represents the romantic wanderer. There's also a lot of symbolism here for Mercury and the moon. But one thing to point out is that at the point of this card is emotion. It's right in the middle of it. It's the heart. And our knight is susceptible to illusions, like anyone who falls in love with an idea or a person is. Now moving to the Queen. There's a lot going on there. And if you know alchemy, you probably notice this right away. But I'm just going to point out a couple of things here. First of all, the Queen here is a mermaid, which represents openness and fertility. It's a very feminine figure. And what's dripping out of her breast is the water of life, which when it enters the vessel here, and that is infinite, but when it enters the water, then it becomes finite, but then it goes through full cycle. So the king, this is not what you expected to see on a king. I'm sure you're thinking, well, it's going to be someone sitting on a throne with a staff in their hand and looking intimidating and strong and powerful. But here we have a little man falling out of the sky. And this is a card, is a reminder that we all fall out of the sky if we forget that we're bigger than just flesh and bones. And this whale here reminds us of that. And the person here, the king, is only part of a bigger picture. And this vase falling down with him. So he brings that, the love, the passion and affection, and that makes him whole. So as you can see, there's a lot going on with these cards, and this is probably one of the deepest meaning decks that I have seen. So with that, let's do a test reading and you will see how this deck works in practice. As you expect, the deck shuffles really well, though they're huge cards, so it's going to be difficult. My suggestion is pre-shuffle it and then pull the cards randomly rather than trying to riffle shuffle. My tiny fingers is struggling to keep it together, and I'm not going to riffle shuffle this deck because why would you? And it's already showing that it can bend easily, so I think you can give this deck a beating, but you also don't have to. Let's do a 3-card read, and we'll do the theme of the day, the challenge, and we'll do an advice on how to deal with that. I'll do an intuitive reading, and then we will look what the guidebook looks like, and hopefully you'll realize how amazing this deck is. So I'll do an intuitive reading. Also, don't forget, I know RWS, that's why I'm a little bit biased. I'm not completely blank coming to this. Hence, my intuitive reading will be influenced by what I know about RWS. The King of Wands. The day they will represent will require me taking the lead. There'll be a full opportunity for you and me, because you're watching this, is also reading for you, to take a lead, to lead others, to be passionate, bold, and relentless in getting where you want to go. Now with that, the challenge is that boldness and moving ahead is only one part of a big picture, and you need to consider other things. You need to consider how people around you feel about you boldly leading them. How do they respond to you potentially ignoring their needs and wishes and maybe not taking what they want out of this into equation? And the Hermit is exactly the solution to that. It's telling us that introspectively within us we find the truth, the drivers for trying to be this unstoppable machine of achievement, breakthroughs, and constant hunger, perhaps for some of us, to become better, to have more, to gain that power. And the Hermit is telling us that you'll find those answers within. There isn't really only one answer, and it is the one you find through introspection, through meditation, through taking time away from the modern busy life. So that's my take on it. Now, obviously, I didn't look into any symbolism here, which I know there are plenty. And I just want to point out the Hermit card is telling exactly that the Hermit's world, the wise man, the universe, is within him. And that's where the search happens. Quite a brutal take on it, don't you think? All right, the book. And this is something that stood out to me right away when I saw it. It's 350-page book, if I'm not mistaken. The book quality, it's a real book, and it's heavy. That's one of the reasons why the box weight so much. It's got embossed print here as well, which you don't really see often on the guidebooks. And this is one of the cards, which I can't remember which one it is. I want to say it's the Ace of Wands, but I'm probably wrong. So one of you asked me, is the book any good? And yes, it is, because it explains all the symbols, but also it leaves you enough room for interpretation. If you know alchemy and some of the symbolism, and if you like the work of Robert Place, you'll probably find this a really good companion to what you already learned. In the Tower of Secrets, the king are often shape-shifting magicians, and the King of Wands appears here in his spirit animal form as a dragon. The dragon, like the King of Wands himself, is a creature of luck, dynamism, and transformation. He balances effortlessly on a sphere that contains the fire of alchemist and all the lively elements and actively combine to create a spiritual gold. It is in a neat package of potentiality, the self-contained globule that contains all the needs to succeed and all he needs to succeed and to bring his desires and wishes into form. The waning crescent moon tied into the wand illustrates the balance he has achieved. Even though his element is fire and his personality is expansive and bright, he is also attuned to softness, coolness, and receptivity in just the right amounts. His posture of presence and luxurious ease illustrates his mastery of his element, his craft, and his world. So, another thing I want to point out that the minor arcana cards have less symbolism explained in them. So you have to work out some of this stuff by yourself, which can be a little bit challenging if you're new to this. So this is the amount of detail you get for the major arcana. The animus mundi is the soul conscious aliveness of the earth, and it all it cradles and contains. You are a part of this soul. You also contain it within your every cell. The animus mundi is the eye on the diamond, which is the divine mother possesses easily without grasping or needing or hold on. As a world, your alchemical journey has made you wise and you purified, and you transformed lead into gold. You have obtained the philosopher's stone. Now, it doesn't really tell you about what you see on the card, unfortunately. Only this, I think, to me, reminds me of knowledge. And it does help to have the previous RWS knowledge with it, or no alchemy. What does it mean? Embrace your destiny and celebrate all you have achieved. Take a joy in being the master of what you have become. A cycle has been completed, even a new one begins. So it's pretty much in line with what you see in RWS. And you got the guidance of the card. You've got the dynamics, which I think talks about how this interacts with other cards. You've got the symbols or secrets, which is referring to some of the symbols you see here. And you've got upright and you've got reversed meaning. Let's do the last one. So you got the Hermit, and this is one of my favorite cards in this deck just because the artwork just speaks for itself, and it's an interesting take on the Hermit card and very accurate at that. So there's a bit of a guidance here, and it's a story of a hermit basically. But I want to look at the secrets because that's where some of the artwork is explained, and I find that this is probably the hardest bit for me. Often in artwork, you want to know what the artist thought, and that's the only way to find out. L'Atlanta is clear in a knowing and the ability to see into the darkest depths. Within the eye socket, we peer into the cosmic and eternal nature of the hermit's soul. The white beard is a symbol of patience and the wisdom of age. The sacred geometry and alchemical symbol illustrate the dissolution of the ego and the self, the reveal of prima materia, the primordial building blocks of nature, spirit, and the divine. So if I look at what it actually meant in our reading, this would be retreat into silence, a spiritual teacher of wise person has appeared of your life. Take your time and go within, meditate and pray. So pretty much on par. The only thing I missed is the meaning of the world card. Let's just have a look at the reverse, whether my intuitive, somewhat reading was on point. So the challenge card, for those of you who don't use the reverse meanings, this is normally, you don't need to use reverse meanings because if you use a spread that has, let's say, a challenge card, that would be your reverse meaning. And that's what I've been doing pretty much all the time. Stop fighting destiny. Admit that you truly desire and be proud of who you are. Don't let the setback discourage you. Accept it, learn from it, and move on. You feel like you've backtracked, but now you can learn something even more deeply. It feels like things aren't going the way they're supposed to, but there is a profound potential for growth in this challenge. So this is different from what I interpreted. It's more of a, if the King of Wands sees challenges along the way, this is basically how you deal with setbacks. So this deck will be a great tool for someone who's already familiar with RWS, perhaps not an expert, but at least remember the cards, because intuitive reading can be a little bit challenging with minor arcana. Or if you know alchemy, and understand the symbolism, perhaps that will be an easier path for you. Now, I think if you want to take your reading to the next level, this is a beautiful deck, which I think sits somewhere close to Robert Place's The Alchemistry deck that I got, though it's got, I think, much nicer and more colorful way to interpret those. This is not a deck for beginners, I want to say, because it's got advanced symbolism and intuitive reading may be somewhat difficult. It's definitely an amazing tool for personal exploration, soul searching, big questions. That's what it's for. And also, if you want to dive into tarot through the alchemy lens and learn some of the symbolism, this is definitely an amazing tool. I'm going to give this deck 4.5 pulls on the cat meter, which is rare for me, and this is the reason why. The deck, the box, the guidebook is a 5-star, 5 pulls quality. I definitely say this is probably one of the best decks, the best publishing that I have seen in the last 12 months. The artwork on this is amazing, and an amount of depth that's been put into this deck through symbolic meaning and all the thought process and poetic language that the author used for the guidebook is just very high quality. The couple of things I fail in this deck on, the drawbacks, if you will, that there is a reason for half star is the cards, some of them, minor arcana, can feel a little bit peepish. And also, you need to have prior knowledge like alchemy before you can start playing with this deck without relying on your prior knowledge of RWS. And Dr. Kotnik agreed with me because no cats in this deck. The only cat we got here is this green lion. Needless to say, he was not impressed with that.
Oh no!
This is it for today. If you enjoyed this, feel free to subscribe. And if you would like to support what I do, you'll find everything you need in the description. Enjoy your flip through, and I will see you in the next one.